Today, we're going to have a little bit of a different format than normal on this show because I've gotten enough requests and enough comments to talk about this topic that we just had to discuss it. And if you're new to this channel, this is something that we've been talking about for a while. And this is the first real update. This is the first real acknowledgement of how messed up and twisted these job numbers have actually been. And over the past year or so, we've talked about this numerous times, all the way back to even last summer, because this is not a brand new issue when it comes to the job numbers. But how could it be? And if you've been looking for a job in the past couple of years, you will know that things might not be getting any worse, but they sure have not gotten any better, because these job numbers have come out and they've looked great. They've looked like the US government has delivered the stars and the moon for the American people, only to be revised a few months later and say, oh, well, we made some mistakes. If you were at your job and you made just a slight accounting error or a slight inventory or calculation error, you would be out in your butt by the end of the day, maybe by the end of the hour. But it's just interesting to me that our official job report numbers can be so completely wrong and adjusted so much, and nothing has ever seemed to be done about it until now. And that's what we want to talk about. I got an article to give me some more information from NBCnews.com. But first, let's start with President Trump's post on Truth Social. Let's go over that. I'll deep dive and dissect my thoughts and my experience of looking at the job market over the past couple of years. And then we'll dive into the article, get some more information, and see what the mainstream media and how they present the news and the information about the jobs compared to the reality that I have had looking over this for the past couple of years, talking to you guys in the comment section and reading people's stories over and over again on LinkedIn. Real Donald Trump on Truth. I was just informed that our country's quote-unquote job numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica McIntyre, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, who faked the job numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. This is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000, and then again, right before the 2024 presidential election in August and September by 112,000. These were records. No one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. McIntyre said there were only 73,000 jobs added. A shock. But more importantly, that a major mistake was made by them. 258,000 jobs downward in the prior 2 months. Similar things happened in the first part of the year, always to the negative. The economy is booming under Trump, despite a Fed that also plays games, this time with interest rates, where they lowered them twice and substantially, just before the presidential election. I assume in the hopes of getting Kamala elected. How did that work out? Jerome Too Late Powell should also be put out to pasture. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So what I want to focus on here is the job numbers and what is happening with the job market, not the economy in general, not Kamala or Biden or Trump specifically, because I think everyone has had a hand in this. Everyone has had their chance to fix it, and it hasn't happened. Now, when we were looking through the debates, and I made a couple of videos on this, when it was Trump debating Biden, I listened to every single debate, and I didn't really hear any concern about the jobs. And, later on we heard, okay, we're going to put some tariffs on things. We're going to bring back American manufacturing. But what about the majority of the jobs that the average American has? We're not all going to factory jobs. What about these corporate jobs? What about these tech jobs? What about, as a lot of you guys think is the main issue, all the H-1B visas given out? As I think is the main issue, all the jobs being sent out to India and the Philippines. As some people think is the big issue, the big culprit, but I think this is just a scapegoat, AI. All these things going on. I didn't hear anything about that. Or at least maybe a throwaway line here and there, but I don't remember. And I was sitting down listening to it because I knew I was going to make videos and reactions to the debates. But the main issue that I came across was that if you don't admit you have a problem, you can't fix it. That's the first step. And neither Biden or Trump was like, oh, yeah, the average American is really struggling in their corporate jobs. They're really struggling to figure out a way to make gainful employment. I guess I can't really blame them. Talking about what's going on, they're going to worry about stock prices, they're going to worry about big corporations. They're too big and too rich to really worry about the average American who's just trying to make rent, who's just trying to make sure they can pay all their bills. God forbid, has some kind of medical emergency, is trying to make sure they can pay that off without having to declare for bankruptcy and lose their house and be out in the streets. I wouldn't think that a politician would ever really care about us. But from the debates, I was like, well, no one clearly still cares about it. They're not even pretending to get votes. So if you were really voting for president, you were voting on other issues besides who's going to bring the most amount of real good jobs to America. You could say, oh, the economy could be booming, but you're really talking about the stock market. You're talking about other things. When myself and people who are looking at the jobs reports and the job numbers all the time are really seeing that we're in big trouble. And if no one is going to address it, I don't know how anything's going to get any better. And if you've been looking for a job over the past couple of years, this actually makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the real number should be 73,000 for the month, but America certainly isn't creating 258,000 real jobs, like jobs that will pay all of your bills a month. They're not creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. They're just not, because how could they be? I mean, how many stories have we gone over on this channel? If you're new to this channel, we got tons of stories here. Just go back. You can go and binge watch if you choose to, of people who are being ghosted. And they're being ghosted at different times, sure, but they're still at the end of the day and at the end of the process being ghosted. Some people are applying for jobs and never hearing back, or if they do, it's months later and they're just getting a generic rejection email. Or maybe they enter the process and then they talk to a virtual recruiter, or they just record their own responses, basically just talking to the camera like I'm talking to it now, and no one ever reads that. Or they're doing some sort of assessment, some sort of word game, some sort of puzzle, or they are doing some free work, some take-home work that's not just like a hypothetical situation, doing real work for the company that the company's going to use, but they sure as heck are not going to hire you and give you a full-time job. So it really doesn't matter. Or if you actually get to the interview process, because that doesn't even count. That's the pregame. That's the warm-up. The actual game itself, a lot of times, you've told me, and I've read plenty of stories, is 5, 6, 7 rounds. And if you add the pregame show, which I guess doesn't count, we could be at 10 different boxes that you have to check before getting a job offer. And even when you get the job offer, you might not even be there long enough to get your first paycheck or, get through your first 90-day trial period. So this is not a surprise to me, and this is not a surprise to anybody, that actual jobs are not being created. And I've always thought, okay, well, the government is just counting jobs that are posted. And we know that that's not leading to actual real jobs for people. So, okay, you can say, oh, we had 200,000 jobs created, 300,000 jobs created. But what are they? Are they part-time jobs at McDonald's? Are they part-time jobs at Walmart? Is it people getting added to the gig economy, driving people on Uber or delivering food on DoorDash? I know sure as heck we're not having 200 to 300 good jobs created every month. And I know that if it is a corporate job that gives you the potential of, keeping a roof over your head with just that one job alone, full gainful employment, that they're just counting the jobs that are posted. And there's no follow-up to see if people are actually being hired. There's no follow-up to see if, people are still working there 3 months later. No. These are all just fake numbers to make the government itself look good. And then they're revised. So this happened under Biden. This is happening under Trump. But I don't know what the end goal of this is going to be. And as of this recording, this is Monday morning, August 4th that I'm recording this. This is the first real sign of anyone actually acknowledging the jobs report that I've seen in a long time. I'm not like a historian. I'm not a trained economist. All right, I can't tell you what happened in 1987, but I can just tell you from the past year or two of looking for gainful employment, of analyzing the job market and everything that's going on with not the economy at whole, but with people trying to land a brand new job. This is the first time that anyone has said anything from the seat of president. So it's kind of interesting. But let's see what else this NBC News article can add to this discussion. President Donald Trump on Friday ordered the firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, hours after a stunning government report showed that hiring had slowed down significantly over the past 3 months. Taking to Truth Social, he attacked Erica McIntyre, the commissioner of the BLS. He claimed that the country's jobs reports are being produced by a Biden appointee and ordered his administration to terminate her. I mean, that could be a huge thing. But my main concern here is, as my uncle used to say, don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to. Because it seems like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, their job, like I've said, is to make the government look good. Look at how many jobs are created. And when they do the revisions a couple months later, nobody really cares about it. I don't see follow-up news reports on it. I see the initial report showing hundreds of thousands of jobs being created and then no real follow-up, right? No corrections, no apology to the people, no, hey, we made a misprint, all that kind of stuff like true journalists would do. I don't see any of that. All I see is, here's all the job numbers. So the problem is, under the Biden administration, we had these reports and things look good. So then under the Trump administration, all right, we have job reports of everything going well. Like I said, we're not talking about the economy as a whole. We're talking about just the amount of jobs being created for the American people. And we have a revision down. But when this happened under Biden, we didn't hear anything at all as far as, whatever, there's an 818,000, that's just a typo, that's just a misprint. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So it's interesting to actually have the president say, what's going on with these job numbers? How could they be revised down so low? The problem is, I feel like, I don't know if it's exactly 73,000, because who really knows? But it certainly is a lot lower, hundreds of thousands of jobs lower than they report each and every month. So if we're going with the real true numbers of actual people who are being hired each and every month in America, especially just US citizens being hired for new jobs, not people from other countries, the number's gonna be really low because it's been really low for the past couple of years. And then back to the NBC News article, President Trump is once again destroying the credibility of our government by firing expert and nonpartisan officials because he does not like the facts that they present, said Max Stier, the CEO of a nonpartisan partnership for public service. Governments that go down this path find themselves in ugly territory very quickly. The deputy commissioner of BLS, who took on the role during the Obama administration, will become the acting chief during the search for a replacement. And we don't know how this is going to end up, but the numbers that they've been reporting, at least for the past couple of years when I've been paying close attention to this, have been wrong. So yes, love him or hate him, you could say, all right, he does fire people if they don't do exactly what he wants. He does fire people if they give him bad news. Classic case of getting mad at the messenger. But in this case, the numbers have been wrong for a long time. And I don't know if he's going to like the real true numbers, but at least this is something. But let's continue. Nobody is faking numbers, former Labor Department chief said. Revisions happen all the time. Trump has previously praised the BLS reports when they were favorable to his administration in April, May, and June. In May, the White House said that April's job reports proved that Trump was revitalizing the economy. In June, Trump posted great job numbers on Truth Social. In March, standing in the Oval Office, Trump brought up how good some of these numbers are. And what's that old phrase? There's 3 kinds of lies. Lies, damned lies, and statistics. And it's really hard to trust a lot of statistics. I mean, when you're trying to make a case and talk about what's going on, you have to go with the numbers that you have. Because even if you look at a lot of statistics, like, we surveyed 100 people or 1,000 people. Well, that's not like everybody, right? But with these job numbers, I mean, that should be pretty straightforward. I don't know all the ins and outs of how they're supposed to do it because it seems like they should go to all the companies and say, how many people did you hire this month? And they submit that information to the government. And then from there, they add up all those numbers, and that's your job numbers. But it seems like they're just saying, hey, how many jobs did you post? Or maybe they're just doing a sampling and they're expanding it, but they sure as heck are not counting every single person that is hired. They just aren't. I'm sorry, you're not going to make a case that convinces me otherwise. So are people faking numbers? Is the government faking numbers? You can use a synonym. You could say exaggerating, you could say estimating, you could say whatever you want to, but I'll go with fake. Hundreds of thousands of people are not being hired every single month. They're just not. So my hypothesis is always, they're just counting the amount of jobs posted, but or maybe post it and then taken off, and that can be counted whether someone is hired, or they just pull the job down, assuming that means that someone is hired. And really, that just means that they've collected enough data and sold it out to people, and now they're going through another round in the future. But call it what you can use whatever synonym you want, but these job numbers for the past couple of years have absolutely been fake. They are not reporting the amount of people who are being hired to new full-time jobs. They're not. An erosion of trustworthy data can impact businesses, consumers, lending, and policymakers. Historically, the United States economic data has been considered the gold standard due to the independence typically given to agencies that collect it. The agency surveys U.S. businesses and consumers by contacting them online, by mail, through phone calls, and in-person visits. It uses responses received through these methods to generate reports for the public and government decision makers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is the primary agency that collects information about the nation's labor markets and economy. In its mission statement, the agency says that it measures labor market activity, working conditions, price changes, and productivity in the U.S. economy to support public and private decision making. That sounds like a convoluted mess. How hard would it be to say, all right, well, there's an official government website. You give everyone has business IDs, right? You enter in your business ID, your tax ID, and you report how many jobs you created. So maybe the US government is not lying, but somebody's lying. Then that means every corporation is lying, or most corporations are lying. And how do you have one number and then you revise it later? Do you revise it when you say, oh, well, actually, these many people didn't get hired? So how can you do the revision number and have that lower number, but you couldn't do the same process originally? So do you do a different method? If it's like, oh, well, we extended this many offers, but then we didn't hire the people, or they withdrew from their candidacy because they went somewhere else. Like, how do you have the revised numbers and you feel confident about that, but you don't feel confident in the original thing? You shouldn't. What are you asking people for? You're asking people if they got hired, if they got a new job? I mean, I guess that would be a little bit better than trusting the companies and the corporations, but that sounds like a terrible way to gather this number. So, and the US being the gold standard, I mean, the US is really good at marketing. They really are. I mean, we've talked about empires in the past who were manipulative and just told the people what they wanted to hear and brainwashed the people. I mean, America is a huge powerhouse right now, and they certainly are not telling everyone the truth. As someone who's traveled over the past couple of years, you hear all kinds of amazing things about the US that's just not true. I mean, we're from the place where movies and music and pop culture extends and permeates into the entire world. And yeah, everyone paints the US in a good light. But if you're actually here trying to make it, trying to keep a roof over your head, this isn't Hollywood, this isn't glitz and glamour, and we're being lied to. Last August, the BLS said 818,000 fewer jobs had been created over a 12-month period than initially thought. At the same time, Trump, who recently resumed attacking federal chair Jerome Powell, said that the central bank chief should also be put out to pasture. Trump has reportedly pressured Powell to lower interest rates, but the Fed chair has said there's still a long way to go to really understand what the effects of the president's tariffs will be. If you move too soon, you wind up maybe not getting inflation all the way fixed and you have to come back. That's inefficient. If you move too late, you might do unnecessary damage to the labor market, Powell said on Wednesday. So what do you think about this? Is this a step in the right direction? Are we finally going to get true, accurate numbers about how many people are actually being hired each and every month? Or is there going to be a new sheriff in town who continues to inflate the numbers but then doesn't adjust it later on to more closely reflect reality? Let me know what you think about all this down in the comments below. And if you have some extra time, YouTube thinks you'll get a lot of value out of the video on screen now. And until next time, remember, times are tough, but so are you. Talk to you later.